Hello, friends. We're going to work on Wednesday's work in the packet, which is based on multiplication. And so I have posted the problem here for you, and I'm going to try my best to do it on this screen again. Hopefully it doesn't cut me off. But I'll go ahead and read through the problem, and then we'll kind of talk through each step. So it says UCPS recently printed remote learning materials for all students. Use the table below to help you solve the following problems. And then we have 3 columns: the grade level, the number of pages per packet, and the number of students at Einstein Elementary School. So we look at question 1. For which grade level did Einstein Elementary print the greatest number of pages? Explain your thinking. So if it wants to know the greatest number of pages, I have the number of pages per packet, but this greatest number of pages is talking about the total pages for each grade level. So I need to kind of think, if there are 165 pages per packet for kindergarten, and there are 96 kindergarten students, well, how do I find those greatest number of pages? So I'm going to try to draw you a picture here, and maybe that can help you kind of visualize what operation we'll be using. So say there's one packet, and for that packet, we know there's 165 pages. So that's for one student. However, we know they don't just have one kindergarten student. They have, right here, it says 96. So basically, I need to do 96 of them. Now, you know Miss Marshall with her efficiency, I am not going to do 96 of these packets. 1, that is not reasonable, and 2, that's takes way too long. So, but I can start to visualize, if this is one packet and it has 165, the second packet has 165, and I have to keep doing this 96 students, that makes me think, to find kindergarten's number of pages, I need to do 165 times 96. Because this is the number of pages in the packet. This is the number of packets because it's per student. And so all of those, that great number will tell me the total pages. So for step 1, I don't think it wants you to solve every single one of these multiplication questions. Guess what it wants you to do? It wants you to use some reasonableness. Let me spell that right. So kind of look at the grade levels and think about, well, who has the most pages and then who has the most students, and which one probably is going to have the highest number of pages. You may also want to think about which ones can you eliminate. Like, I'll go ahead and give you a hint. For me, I'm going to take out 3rd grade, because 3rd grade has 114 pages. That's the least pages per packet. And they also don't have the greatest number of students. They only have 88. I see ones that are greater. So for me, 3rd grade definitely won't have the greatest number. So kind of use your reasonableness to figure out what grade level you think will have the most pages. And then what's important is your explanation. I think this grade level has the most because of blank. Now, if you can't use reasonableness, then you will need to solve every single one of these multiplications to figure out which grade level had the most. But for number 1, I really think you can use your reasonableness of your factors to figure out which is the greatest number of pages. So that should help you with number 1. We're going to look at number 2 now. So for number 2, it asks, how many more pages did Einstein Elementary print for kindergarten than 1st grade? Okay, I see a couple things that are important here. How many more? That right there, and then I see kindergarten, and then I see 1st grade. That right there makes me think of, I'm comparing kindergarten versus 1st. Again, if I'm comparing, you guys should know what operation that is. I'm not going to tell you. That's for you to figure out. But before I compare them, I also need to know their pages. So again, I've got to know kinder's pages, and I've got to know 1st grade's pages. And then if I'm comparing them, you guys should know what operation to do from there. So this should probably be your first step. And then after that, you'll have to figure out how to compare kinder versus first. Now, I told you in problem 1, you're probably going to have to multiply something together. So I am going to go over and remind you guys of how to multiply a 3 by 2. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So say, let's do second grade. So say I need to know second grade's total papers used. So I'm going to do 191 times 90. Miss Marshall picked this one because there's already a 0 in the ones place. So when I do standard algorithm, anytime I multiply this 0 by any of that, it's just going to be 0. So I'm going to go ahead and put my placeholder here. And then I'm going to go ahead and mark out that 0 because I've already used it. And then I can go ahead and start my second line. So now I do the 9 times the 1, which is 9. 9 times 9 is 81. I leave the 1, I carry the 8. 9 times 1 is 9, plus 8 is 17. And then you got to think about, this is whole numbers, so where do I put my comma? Comma goes every 3 numbers, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, so right there it says I have 17,190 pages. Now, how do I know I'm right? You know, Miss Marshall uses estimation, so I'm going to kind of do 191 is about 200. I'm going to leave 90 as is. That's an easy number to multiply. Okay, so 200 times 90. I'm going to use what I know about 2 times 9, which is 18. And then use those zeros that I know shift my digits over in the place value system. So this should be near about 18,000. Again, this is my estimate. Let me put my E there. And if I look at my actual answer, it is very close to 18,000, so I know I'm probably correct. So I would say for second grade, the amount of pages is 17,190. Now, if you're still not good with standard algorithm, you can use your area model. It may take me a minute to get this. Let's do the squares. That makes it a little bit better. Let's do, okay. So I'm just setting up an area model to kind of show you. Okay, so this one I would break up the 191. And then on this side, I'm going to break up the 90, which really can't be broken up. So I'm just actually going to have this first part, which is 90. So in this box, I will put what 100 times 90 is, and I think of what's 9 times 1 is 9. There are 3 zeros there, so that's going to be 9,000. 90 times 90, I think of what 9 times 9 is, which I know is 81. And again, I use those zeros to help me understand my place value. So 90 times 90 is 8,100. And then 90 times 1, that's easy. Anything times 1 is 90. And then I would need to add up all of these parts to get my final product. So I could go ahead and do the 9,000 and the 8,000 is 17,000. The 100 and the 90 is 190. And if you look, I'm going to get the same thing. 17,190. Now, if you could not do that mentally like Miss Marshall just did, you would need to line these values up standard algorithm. So I just showed you 2 ways to solve for the total number of pages for second grade. You can use your standard algorithm. You could use area models. Some of you I know like to use distributive property, whatever works best for you, but these are large numbers, so be careful. Again, for this number 2, you need to think of what how many more means, okay? All right, we're going to move to number 3. So number 3 says, how many total pages did Einstein Elementary print in grades 3 through 5? So we know that grades 3 through 5 is going to be important. That means this grade level, and that grade level. I'm going to need to do something with all 3 of those. Then it wants the total pages for those. So that word total should tell you something that should help understand what operation that is. If you have a total amount of 3 things, you're probably putting them together. So y'all need to try to remember what putting together means. Also, look at these numbers, friends. If you're putting together all 3 grade levels' number of pages, this is probably going to be pretty large. Look back at just second grades. Second grades was 17,000 almost pages. That's just for 1 grade level. So if you're putting together 3 grade levels, expect your answer for number 3 to be pretty high. Okay, so that should help you for all 3 questions. We kind of went through them again. If you're a little stuck, go back through. Just do your best. Make sure you're submitting on Canvas. I should see 3 answers for this because there are 3 questions. I also realized there's not a lot of space in the packet for this. Look there. There's not a lot of space. So please make sure you're doing your work on a separate sheet of paper to show your work. You know, Miss Marshall, an answer is great, but I got to know that you know how to get the answer. That's the part of showing your work. Angel and Micaiah and Jackson, y'all did a great job yesterday submitting your separate sheet of paper so I could really see your work, and that really helped me understand if you got it or not. So I encourage the rest of you to make sure you're showing your work on a separate sheet of paper and then submitting your final answers here and the work on your separate sheet of paper. Well, I look forward to seeing all your submissions, especially for those house points. Rivera is still in first, but Amistad is still close second. So good luck, and I'll talk to you soon.